No, I know that feedback was.
Hey, make it quick. There it goes before a poll.
Is it okay if we begin? I see you're working on the laptop over there. Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. I don't know. Yeah, the lights do seem like they're a little brighter than usual. Is that the case, or? I mean, they're
If we
usually
could turn them down, that'd be great.
quite bright, but not
These ones up
at
here?
this level.
Going blind.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Oh, that's.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the high school walkthrough. We had at 5:30. We're going to call the public session with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
United States of America. Republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible. Justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening? Henry, second. Jim, any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, Mr. Poole, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. President, and good evening to everyone. I do want to start, before I do some recognitions of some great things happening in the school district, just to give the board just a brief COVID-19 update for the school district. I want to start off with a thank you again for this year from our families to our students to our staff. We are still in the pandemic, but all of us working together, has resulted in, again this year, no school spread, limited number of cases in the school with no instances of school spread again. More importantly, all have continued to work together to continue to provide as much of our normal and traditional programs for students as well as some added programs this year, and for that I'm very, very grateful. So just briefly, students to date from the start of the school year that have tested positive, 65, staff 19. That is about 3% overall of staff and students combined, or another way to look at it is that we're averaging about 1 case per day, per calendar day, since the start of the school year. Much, much better than last year. Importantly, and some good news is that close contacts identified through contact tracing from the 84 cases is just 25, again with none of the 25 coming down subsequently with COVID-19. So those are the cases to date in the school district. Currently in our local area, meaning East Shoreham, Shoreham Village, Wading River, there are approximately, according to Newsday, 4.5 new cases on a daily basis. Yesterday, Suffolk County was at 6.8% positivity rate. That those numbers put the county into a CDC designation, as we may remember, as a high transmission county, and county vaccination rates are at 68%, and that seems to be very similar to our local area. Just a brief note, you may recall the district was required to provide access to COVID testing for staff and students this year. We were notified of that probably late September, early October. The board approved facilities use for an excellent testing company. So we do have on-site testing on Tuesday afternoons at the high school. The county also shares with us regularly free testing sites, which we share with staff. And right now, about 60 tests per week are given on campus on Tuesday afternoons. So just wanted to provide that with you. We stay vigilant. We have a great team, nurses, and again, thank you to our families, our administrators. So far, the year's been a great success despite ongoing cases. All right, now to better. So I want to start off with the congratulations to all of the high school music students for 3 amazing performances the week before Thanksgiving break. It was hard to describe how awesome it was to have live music back in our auditorium. When the band students played we finally had the new band shell in the back. Sound was awesome. They sounded great. I don't know how they did it with Mr. O'Brien and all of that, but sounded great. Got a standing ovation. Students were just beaming to be able to perform with that live audience again. So just wonderful to have that happen for our high school students last week. Also at the high school, the Global Awareness Club had just completed a very successful coat drive. So thank you to them and all the members for organizing that event and contributing to our community, which many of our student organizations do. Another example of that is the Natural Helpers Club, led by Mrs. Mitchell. They are organizing their yearly happiness bag drive for the homeless in our area. And right now the drive is looking to collect new hats and gloves, along with gift cards from our local businesses. Last year they collected enough to donate 55 bags, and they're hoping to get to 65 this year. So thank you to the Natural Helpers Club. I do have to give a shout out to all of the students involved in the Wildcat Pause. They did put out their first print edition this week. Just really excellent writing, excellent topics related to the high school and to national and international events. Really glad to see that there's about 20 high school students this year, which is a good increase on staff. And at the same time they work on this, they also maintain, not everybody may know about it, a digital news site which can be found at the Wildcat Pause, PAUSE.com. So great work by them. Look forward to reading more of their papers as we move through the school year. Have to give a great big congratulations to the Wildcat football team and Coach Smith. About a week ago, they won in an amazing tight game. They won the Suffolk County Championships about a week ago, so congratulations to them. And just this past weekend, played a tremendous game with a lot of heart this past weekend in the Long Island Championship. Didn't quite win the game, but what an effort, what a great season by them. So congratulations to them. I know we'll have them and student athletes come to the board meeting for us to recognize their successes in the fall. Another congratulations to 3 of our star student athletes for their participation in the Section 11 Suffolk Boys Senior Soccer All-Star Game. Seniors Justin DePoli, Will Duvall, and Timothy McQueenie joined senior players from all over Suffolk to showcase their skills and represent us proudly one last time. They've been 3 great players for the district, so congratulations to those students as well. Just going to congratulate a few more high school students. Shoreham-Wading River High School students, sophomore Meyer Beiersdorfer and senior Kirsten Murray joined our amazing art teacher Samantha Shepard in the Suffolk County Art Leaders Association Invitational Show, and they were selected to present in that show, and that celebrates the very essence of art education. And this was an opportunity for art teachers and selected students to exhibit and share their considerable creativity. So congratulations to them. And another high school congratulations to our orchestra teacher, Miss O'Connor, and orchestra students. They put together a great program for orchestra students where their students were able to participate in master classes and coaching sessions led by Lee Schoenberger Doty and Marie-Elaine Gagnon, who are both string professors from the Crane School of Music, and they joined the class for some instruction. Students learned about performance techniques, how to improve their own playing, different practice methods, and how to play music together as a member of an ensemble. So some great things happening at the high school level. Middle school concerts for band, chorus, and orchestra begin tomorrow night here at the high school. They're all at 6:30. We know they're broken up for social distancing on the stage, so those will happen this week. Over at Wading River, I have to thank the Suffolk County Police Department. What a wonderful event last week. The helicopter special patrol unit landed in the back of Wading River. Nothing more heartwarming than the 2 parents coming off the helicopter and their children in the building running out to say hello to their parents as heroes on the helicopter. All the students were excited. They learned a lot, got to walk through it. But a thank you to our parent, Phaedra Musselman. If you read her bio or anything in the paper, and it sounds like an amazing person, currently flying helicopters for Suffolk County Police Department. Stony Brook Flight Medic and parent Erin Carey was also on board for that, and other EMT staff. So students were able to tour the helicopter and speak with staff for that event, which was really very cool. I'm sorry I missed it. I had a prior meeting, but it looked wonderful for that. So the Wading River Orchestra and Band concerts, along with grade 5, they are going to be next week. So they start on Wednesday, December 8th, and they'll be here at 6:15 at the high school. And I have to give a congratulations to third grader Celia Guetta, was recognized in the local papers and on Channel 12 News for her outstanding efforts in raising hundreds of dollars for the homeless by sewing and selling scrunchies. So very nice article on her in Newsday. Over at Miller Avenue, students learned about Veterans Day over the last couple of weeks by creating cards for local veterans homes. Second grade students, they had a special Balloons Over Miller Avenue Thanksgiving parade. Great to see students with balloons walking through the hallway with themed balloons, floats, and signs. And finally, at Miller Avenue, thank you to the community for their generous donations to Miller Avenue's annual Thanksgiving food drive. As a result of the giving, 14 families received food baskets and gift cards. Another example of the community service and giving across all of our schools in the district and our community. On the agenda tonight, we have 3 presentations. Anyway, Mr. Piazzi and Mr. Holonia here to share some updates on the high school programming. In just a little bit, I'd like to welcome this evening Mr. Schupner, Mr. Longo from our architect firm, BBS. You may recall that back in June, we've made some plans for creating outdoor learning environments. A great dramatic increase in using outdoors for learning last year. And while that may have started with we want to get outside for COVID, as the year went on, they went outside because going outside they found was beneficial and created a stimulus for learning, fresh air. So as part of that federal grant package, in there was funding for us, and it's been approved by the state, to create outdoor learning environments in all of our buildings. And certainly phase 1 was actually the infrastructure and the pavilions, and I know a lot of time's been spent by Mr. Arcuri, building principals, administration, staff, with our architects, and they're here to share some final drawings and renderings tonight with the board as we get ready to get these projects up to state ed with the hope that we'll have these ready for the fall of next year. So welcome to you. One more presentation from Mr. Meinster. You may, as you recall, the district recently settled a contract with our teachers union. As a result, we are able to extend the instructional school day at the secondary level to 7 hours. That represents 5 more minutes at the high school level and 10 more minutes at the middle school level. Spent some time working on how can we work that into this year. So Mr. Meinster is going to share a proposed plan for that use of time at the high school and the middle school, effective after we come back from the holiday breaks at the end of December. But it does require a slight adjustment to current schedules, which Mr. Meinster will share. Finally, if anybody's listening, I know we've been pounding the pavement for the digital equity survey. That is a requirement from New York State. I know a lot of information, communication. If you go to the webpage, it pops up to take that survey. Please, if you haven't done it, please take the time. I know it's something else to do, but one has to be done for every student, and we are required to continue to pursue that. So if it's not done, we'll be spending more time in reaching out to those individuals that haven't completed. So if you hadn't had a chance, please, parents, if you're listening, please take that survey. It is, we don't want to take any more of your time than necessary, and any more of district time to get the survey done as required by New York State. And finally, on Friday at 3:30, December 3rd, we are going to have a formal opening of the new wrestling center in the school district. So a couple of remarks, and then a chance for anyone that comes to see the inside of the new wrestling center. And thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Poole. Opportunity for board members. Anybody have anything? Okay. Don't believe we have any statements from residents. So we'll go straight to reports and reviews, and we'll have the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Puglisi and Mr. Holonia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. We appreciate being here tonight. Oh, no worries. Thank you. Okay, so once again, on behalf of myself and Mr. Holonia, we are very happy to be here tonight to talk about all the exceptional things that are going on here at the high school. Tonight, we're going to quickly talk about some of the updated, completed grounds and facilities projects, talk briefly about the challenges, the continued challenges with COVID-19.
Also going to be talking about some of our academic and extracurriculars, the diverse course offerings, extracurricular opportunities, and athletic options. In addition, some reporting on some of the updated locations like the ASC, formerly Library Loft, and the Mac Lab upstairs.
And finally, we will talk about the newly installed SEL Mentoring Program. All of these updates we are very proud and very excited to speak to. These first half dozen slides or so we're going to go through very quickly. This is all information that has been presented previously, mostly by Mr. Arcuri. So just some quick updates. The vestibule canopy outside of the wrestling center, the new mat inside. Again, as mentioned during our walkthrough, the updated and resurfaced tennis courts, the stairs at the Kootenella Field, the walkway, the updated track, the painting of the track along with the lines. This one was not in the update from Mr. Arcuri's presentation simply because it wasn't in at that time. And this is the newly installed adventure education apparatus on the backfield. This will be used during phys ed classes. So this continues to grow the program that we already have in place. As mentioned also during the walkthrough are refinished casework and handrails throughout the building. The expansion joint covers, which have been thoroughly discussed and talked about. The high school band room and the orchestra chorus room as well. The updated flooring that was done in there. Everything just looks fantastic. The new cabinetry in the band room again. The painting of the walls. The decal on the back wall. Again, now the shots inside the orchestra chorus room. Same thing here, the newly painted walls. Everything really is starting to come together in this space. Room A101, which was formerly technology room, now Long Island Sustainability. In addition to the change of the classroom space, we also were able to add an outside door, which is kind of dead center in the back of this photo. And then the room that traded with A101 S126, formerly a science classroom, now a technology room. This space was changed over, specifically because of the ceiling height and the ability to be able to really flesh that out as an active technology room.
So just very quickly want to touch on our continued response to COVID-19 as we continue to deal with the pandemic, some of the things that we're doing here at the high school. All of our desks are spaced at a minimum of 3 feet. The vast majority of our desks are at 4 feet or greater in most of our classrooms. We are operating 2 cafeterias this year, so our 11th and 12th graders eat their lunch in the traditional main cafeteria downstairs. Our 9th and 10th graders are eating lunch in the aux gym. Those who purchase lunch buy it in the main cafeteria and bring it to the aux gym. This way we can keep our students distanced at 6 feet at all times while they are eating. In addition, we've been able to spread out our home bases to 6-foot distancing. We're using the auditorium where we're here today, the library, and some of the other spaces throughout the building in order to spread out and get that 6-foot distancing as much as possible. Our band has been on the stage and back together, as Mr. Poole mentioned earlier in his update. It's been fantastic having the band be able to perform all together again as a full ensemble and prepare for their concert. So they've actually been on the stage and in the aux gym a bit as well, but 6 feet apart so that they can play as an entire group. This year has been a welcome addition. And then finally, we continue to conduct our contact tracing, enforcing the mask wearing and the other the other mandates by New York State. We continue to be on our toes and ready to respond as the situation changes and as new guidance becomes available. Up next, we're going to talk about some of our academic, extracurricular, and athletic opportunities. So we do have quite a few. Starting off, we have BOCES programs. So we have 42 students from the high school, juniors and seniors, who attend 27 different BOCES programs at multiple sites on Long Island. They start their school day here predominantly in the morning, half their day in regular classes and at the high school, and then they get on buses and we ship them over to the different BOCES programs. We have students in all sorts of different programs: computer graphic arts, cosmetology, early childhood education, HVAC, law enforcement, welding, just to name a few. At the high school this year, we're offering 18 AP courses. As of right now, we have 243 of our high school students registered to take 519 different AP exams this May. This year, we're proud to announce we have a new program. AP Spanish is up and running. And we have students enrolled in that and enrolled to take the exam, so that class is off to a fantastic start. Additionally, this year, we're working on the New York State Seal of Biliteracy. We have been working to identify students who meet this requirement. The Seal of Biliteracy is an additional credential on a diploma that indicates that a student has the ability, in multiple languages. It makes them, certainly, more hireable from an employment standpoint, as well as, more attractive in the college application process. We're working on, identifying those students, identifying students who've met some of the requirements, educating students and staff as to what those requirements are and how to, help promote our students to reach that new credential. In addition, we offer dual enrollment programs here at the high school. So through Suffolk Community College's Beacon program, we have 12 high school courses where students can take classes here, earn grades here on their high school transcript, but also get those same grades on a college transcript. So we have 102 students participating in that Beacon program through Suffolk Community. SUNY Farmingdale runs a similar program, the university and the high school program. So we have 2 business courses where right now we have 15 students, and there'll actually be a little bit turnover. One of the classes is a course that takes place in the spring. Again, it's a half-year course, the sports marketing course. So we'll have some additional students come the springtime who are participating in that dual enrollment program as well. We also have the ACE program through Stony Brook. We have 74 students from our Spanish and our French classes who are participating in the dual enrollment to earn college credit through Stony Brook University. This year, again, we've expanded our options in art, business, and technology classes, in particular the virtual enterprise class through the business program as an opportunity for students to collaborate and work on authentic real-world business plans, business models, incorporating all sorts of different areas of expertise and students working together to create virtual businesses that they kind of get off the ground and running, all sorts of different departments involving students' expertise in areas such as marketing, advertising, management, and it's really a fantastic program, so we're happy to see that running. And peer mentoring, again, we have studio art peer mentoring, general music, theater, and phys ed, where we have a mix of students with disabilities along with our general education students, where in addition to working on their coursework, students are working on social skills, socialization, and really integrating our students with disabilities into our general ed settings throughout the building.
Up next, we have our expanded extracurricular opportunities. Right now, at present time, we have 31 clubs, 9 of which are academic in nature. These include the Art and Literary Club, Brainstormers, DECA, Journalism, Mathletes, National History Day, Robotics, WISE, World Language Club. We have 11 community service-based clubs, the Act Now, Best Buddies, Freshman Class, Global Awareness, the GSA, the Junior Class, Natural Helpers, SAD, Senior Class, Sophomore Class, and Student Government. Again, 2 National Honor Societies, Tri-Am Music and our National Honor Society, 3 major music elective ensembles, the Chamber Orchestra, the Jazz Band, and the Vocal Express, and then 3 theater productions for the year, the Fall Drama, the Spring Musical, and the Student Run production. We really attempt to provide as wide a ranging set of opportunities for our students. We tell the incoming 9th graders each year, John and myself, that if you can't find something that you're interested in, you're probably not looking hard enough. There really is something for everyone. It may not be exactly what you're looking for, But if you give it an opportunity, we're pretty confident that there'll be something that you can find. We are very happy to announce that starting this year, we are going to install the Scholar Fine and Applied Arts recognition. This is very similar to the NISFA Scholar Athlete Award, which recognizes our scholar athletes at the end of each season. The Scholar Fine and Applied Arts recognition will be awarded at the end of each year to student actors, artists, and musicians that meet the established standards of academic achievement and extracurricular involvement in the fine and applied arts. So we will be sharing this information out with the students very shortly in terms of what the requirements will be. We pulled together an ad hoc committee about a month ago, teachers in the building from those department areas. We looked at what the NISFA standards look like for the scholar athlete, and we said we need to create something that mirrors that for this whole other group of students. So we're very, very excited to be able to begin that recognition this year with the senior class during Senior Awards Night.
And then finally, our diverse athletic opportunities. Shoreham-Wading River High School, we have 26 varsity teams and 16 JV athletic teams for our students to choose from. In addition, we have 3 different students, 1 gymnast and 2 fencers who participate in programs through other districts that support these smaller programs. This spring will be our first season of Challenger basketball. Challenger programs are organized through Section 11. They give students with mental and physical disabilities the opportunity to compete against other students from other schools in a variety of sports. So we do anticipate about 15 or 20 students who are excited to participate in the program. And again, to get that on the competition between different schools. Last year everything was kind of done in-house due to COVID. So excited to see that up and running. Finally, Mr. Please and I so proud once again to announce that all 26 varsity teams were recognized as scholar athletic teams last school year, and we're happy to see their continued athletic success. And Mr. Poole mentioned in his update as well, proud of our Shoreham-Wading River football team who won the county championship a week ago at Stony Brook University.
It's now our pleasure to really look at 2 updated locations, the Academic Success Center and the Mac Lab. This is formerly the Library Loft and A209. As you saw during the walkthrough, the updated Library Loft contains all new flexible seating furniture. The space has been completely redesigned, relit. Everything with the students in mind. We really envisioned a space that would be welcoming to students to be able to drop into during the course of the day, to be able to meet with teachers both in a formal and sometimes informal way, to create a space that is welcoming, that is not in any way stigmatizing. It's a location where all students can go to feel comfortable. And get that extra help and be able to speak with staff members in just a bright and welcoming location. It truly is. The photos really don't do it justice. Like I said a second ago, the Academic Success Center now resides in the location formerly known as the Library Loft. This location has been completely redesigned and re-outfitted with flexible seating and large whiteboards that serve as dividers and workspaces. In addition to that, we are still awaiting some additional technology in that space. Digital boards will also be up that teachers will be able to use to support instruction. Throughout the day, the ASC houses our in-school extra help sessions along with our instructional support periods. Each period, a variety of teachers across multiple subject areas are available to provide support to our students. What we've found is, in addition to providing this extra help and academic support to the students, this has also been a wonderful opportunity for staff members who don't typically have time to interact with one another to be able to do that on a daily basis as well across different department areas. So there's been that added benefit as well. These in-school support periods, in addition to these in-school support periods, we also have our before and after-school extra help. So what we've been able to see so far this year, and please keep in mind that extra help certainly ebbs and flows throughout the year, the number of students that participate. Certainly early on, September, early October, you would not see quite as many students participating simply because they're just getting started in the classes, but we know these numbers will kind of, like I said, ebb and flow throughout the year depending on upcoming tests, end of marking periods. But right now, before school, we're averaging about 50 students per week. Periods 1 through 9 inside of the Academic Success Center, we're having about 160 students per week. And in our after-school extra help, we have about 40 students per week. Again, this is just based on our numbers thus far, really for, the better part of October and November is when you begin to start to see students availing themselves of extra help. In addition to these more formal settings with our staff, we also offer our NHS students, National Honor Society students, offer peer-to-peer mentoring as well. And as we know from years past, that will typically begin to tick up around the end of each marking period and certainly as we get later into the year.
Just finally, the update on room A209, which has been made into a new Mac lab. Absolutely a fantastic space, with fantastic seating as well as computing opportunities for students. It's a space that we really anticipate is going to be highly used by multiple programs throughout the upcoming school year. Just to be a little bit more specific, completely updated and redesigned computer lab. It's now open and available to all classes on a sign-up basis. So basically, sign up using a Google form. Teachers have the opportunity to sign up to use the space. The Macs have been recently updated. Apple Logic Pro app has been installed. It contains Logic Pro, Final Cut, Pro Motion 5, Compressor 4, and Main Stage 3. So we do foresee this lab being initially used by our art, music, and technology classes. However, in a short period of time, many more classes will begin to avail themselves of it and to be able to explore, the power of these computers. For anybody who's up there in that space during the walkthrough, it's absolutely beautiful space. It came out really, really well, and something that we're excited to continue to use throughout the school year.
Last but certainly not least, we're also very excited to talk to you about the SEL Mentoring Program that got started this year. In collaboration with North Shore Youth Council, which has been a tremendous asset to the district. It's a great partnership that really not only benefits our students, but our staff as well. So like I said, this collaboration to create a teacher-student mentoring program. 5 classroom teachers were selected from all that applied to serve as mentors to students that have been identified by our high school and middle school mental health teams. These students were identified based on any number of factors. We were looking at students that were, showing academic weakness. We were looking for students that had issues with socialization, issues with behavior, and then also obviously coming out of COVID last year, students that may have been home for a prolonged period of time, may have chosen or for whatever reason were on home instruction, on virtual instruction because of COVID, because for themselves or a family member. So those were the original pool of 25 students that were divided among the 5 teachers. So each teacher has 5 students that they meet with, five students, 5 days in the week. So they're meeting with each student once a week, building that relationship with our primary intent being connection. We know through all the literature and all the studies that students need to know that they have someone that cares about them, that they have an individual connection with. And that is the purpose, that is the primary purpose of this program. Everything else that comes along with that, if we do see, academic increases, if we do see increases in appropriate social behavior, if we see better attendance, all of that for me is icing on the cake. The simple fact that we identified students that we knew were at risk and paired them with a trusted staff member that they now know someone here is connected to them, that cares about them, that is there for them, that can be that person that they can turn to. That for us was the primary thing. The mentor teachers have been receiving additional training through North Shore Youth Council. That way they know what their role is. They are teachers. They are not counselors. They are not mental health professionals themselves. They are a trusted adult So they know that if information is revealed to them that needs professional assistance, they know the avenues to be able to do that, to be able to bring that over to our mental health team. So again, we're creating just additional safety nets to make sure that all of our students are properly taken care of. We're very excited about this program, and I certainly can't wait to hopefully come back in the spring to be able to report again on how successful it was. Before we exit tonight, I do have to give a big thank you to Mr. Marcelino and his staff for all of their incredible work throughout the building on a daily basis. This is a large building. It's a big footprint, and Anthony and his crew work tirelessly every day. So on behalf of Mr. Mahoney and myself and all the students at SWR, we know that everything that we just discussed tonight, everything that we shared tonight, everything that we're so proud of tonight is not possible without all of you up on the dais. So Central District Office Administration, Board of Education, we thank you for this opportunity, and we thank you for all the opportunities that we're able to give to our students. Thank you very much.
Well, we certainly thank you, and even though our students were able to be present in person, which was a rare opportunity at the high school level here, certainly, it feels, walking through the building, like it's come alive again, and it's refreshing to see that, and hoping for continued, that thriving and putting more distance between that survival mode and us. Do we have any questions regarding the presentation?
Yeah, I just had a few. Thank you for tonight, for showing us around. Every time I come back into the school, there's always something new and improved, and it's great to see that, Just had a couple questions just to go back to the COVID response.
Sure.
And I know that we had done some spacing. You talked about the spacing. I also noticed here in the auditorium you still have tags on the chairs.
Yes.
Are you still using that approach in the larger auditoriums?
Yes, that's primarily in here because the choir still rehearses in here, and in order to meet their requirement to sing without masks, they have to be at that spacing. So that's what those tags are primarily for.
Okay. And with the upcoming concerts and things that are happening, what is the intent for public coming in?
As far as the public is concerned, obviously masks required. Seating is not monitored in terms of spacing. We do request that family groups stay together and leave some space in between each group. The idea of spacing out the different ensembles is to create more space within the auditorium.
Okay. And just one last question.
Sure.
I know, and I noticed walking around, which I was happy to see, it seems like we had instituted a process for over-ventilating the spaces or providing more ventilation. Are we still doing that throughout the school and in different places?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if that was a question for you or Mr. Curie, but
Both.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have the Outdoor Learning Spaces presentation by Mr. Schupner and Mr. Longo.
administration, and walked each building and found a location that we felt was best to accommodate an outdoor learning environment. Similar structures at the elementary schools and the middle school for outdoor learning, and kind of an outdoor learning and dining plaza at the high school. The pavilions are meant to provide an opportunity for different curriculum and learning opportunities, such as math, science, literacy. Each of these provides an opportunity for student engagement and team building opportunities, including nurturing some of the students' creativity. So the funding is accommodating what we're calling phase 1 of the projects, which is essentially the outdoor pavilion, a slab, and some concrete pads. And then the environments around them will be developed individually, possibly through individual building committees, to determine what some of those environments might include. The intention is to provide an open structure, no perimeter walls, no interior walls, an open floor slab for flexibility of the spaces. Some of the teaching tools, portable writing surfaces, and there's considerations for some small sheds near each of the pavilions that can accommodate some of the teaching tools, desks and chairs and things like that. So we have some plans that we'll show you for each of the buildings, and we look forward to hearing if you guys have any comments.
Thank you. Good evening. Good to see you all again. I'm glad to be back. Not talking about athletic fields today, but something actually even more interesting. So the way that we're looking at this is that initial funding source is going to fund the infrastructure, and we're going to consider that the nucleus of these environments, right? So as Ken's point was, what we're able to afford and buy out now would be the pavilion and some of the physical infrastructure with the hardscape, and then set a path for how we can have a building block and outfit this as it goes through its life. And it's not all going to happen at once. It'll be heavily reliant on building administration and staff as to what each of those things develops itself into. But we wanted to start with a roadmap and a master plan of what each could be and give some creative thoughts to how that would work. And then so you all could see, don't be alarmed in September when you see what we left you. Just understand that there is a much broader thought that's coming with these projects. And there'll be a progression of use from the primary schools through the secondaries, right? We're going to start off with certain components, and as the kids move through their school life, they'll also grow with these environments, and hopefully we can achieve that as well. So with that, we'll go through, we'll start down at Wading River, I believe, is first. So this is just an overall site plan of campus. After our review, this is where we identified the best location for the outdoor learning pavilion. It's shown in the green square there. And some notations of future components, right? These learning nodes, if you will, that would be situated amongst this location. We're trying to get a couple of groups of children out there at the same time with the flexible moving furnishings, if you will. And to Ken's point, some minimal infrastructure to start out, and then we'll be expanding on that. So this is actually Miller. And Wading River is here. Wading River is actually on the opposite side of the school. And again, this had to do with the topography of the site and other uses where the playground is on the north side. So this ended up being one of the more attractive locations for the development of the outdoor learning area for this particular site. So what we did was we looked at some inspirational design elements for what these nodes could be, right? So there could be a music garden set area with different drums and chimes and pipes and things, and this would be at the smaller kids who are learning, motor skills and, coming into their own, right, indicated to guys. Landscaping and gardening, this may be better suited for some of the older guys, the 3 to 5s, but again, just showing what some of these spaces can contain natural elements. This is a really a good one. We, our firm does a lot of playground design, and outdoor nature playgrounds is gaining traction and popularity, and we've done it at multiple locations, and it actually suits itself well for an outdoor learning environment just by the nature of what the equipment and the components lend themselves to, outdoor seating and climbing and things like that. Outdoor science, this is an easy one, right? Because we can do things with sundials and temperature gauges and rain gauges and harvesting of rainwater and how we could use that to then water the plants that would be in the garden and things like that. Doing experiments with following the sun and shadows, and the possibilities are endless. And again, that's why our goal here was to just kind of stimulate the thought of what the environments can be, and we are in no way, shape, or form going to dictate what they are. We think that should come from obviously the building and administration level. Pollinator garden, again, this would probably be better suited at the older children, because it's going to attract bees and butterflies and things like that. But again, this could be coupled with the landscaping and nature component. It takes maintenance, and that's critical as these areas are developed. Is the long-term thought of how they're maintained. As you know, your schools are not in session for a period of time over breaks, and especially over the summer, and there'd have to be a buy-in for who would be maintaining or looking after some of these. Some are require more maintenance than others. And finally, what would the outdoor pavilion look like? We went back and forth on a couple of design ideas, and we came up with this open air concept, which would have, it's almost like a clear story area at the top where fresh air can come in, also let in additional light and ventilation. So that would be the pavilion example at the top there. At both campuses, there are areas where there's picnic tables and things of that nature. So we said, all right, so maybe we should introduce some more shading there, especially, at both campuses where the picnic tables are, there is no shade at the moment. So this would be an example of how we would provide shading for that. So what we did was, after we threw everything in our little blender and our magic hat here, we tried to, show administration what this could look like in its, final build out here, with the nucleus again that we're going to be providing. The walkways and the pavilion and the pad and the storage area being, the centrally located component, and then everything working in phases being introduced around it. So this would be an example of what maybe, an outdoor nature area could be. It will also function as a swing space for learning, right? Or story time and things like that. Underneath on the right, you can see another instructor, has a smaller group of children with a portable chalkboard or something to that effect, and can be having another instruction going on over there. This would be a wider shot of some of the elements that would surround it, with the science areas and the gardening areas. We call this messy materials areas, where kids get to experiment with certain things, maybe not best suited for a school environment. This gets back to that nature explore outdoor classroom idea that I was referring to. But again, just, all overall concepts here, right? What could, raised flower beds be, where the children can raise the seeds indoors in the winter months and then bring them out in the early spring, and then come the end of the school year, either harvest and or bring their plants home with them. So that was at the primary. So over at the middle school, this is the location. It's just to the north of the greenhouse that was erected a couple of years ago in the tree grove there. We felt that this was one of the best locations here. We walked that whole campus. We looked out in the woods where the old barn was, and out in front of the, I guess that's the auditorium. And this felt like this space just felt the best, from my point of view anyway. I know there was a bunch of opinions about it. But so, as I described earlier, so then we would start thinking about, all right, so what's the progression of the outdoor learning space? Everything that I just showed you at the other school locations could apply here too, but is it really, is it necessary, or do we start getting into more technology-driven things or things that can support the science curriculum and or math or or the music programs, right? So we have outdoor, a large open outdoor space where maybe a music ensemble can locate, as well as, the thought of solar panels on the roof for, learning opportunities, possibly a green roof, again, there'd be maintenance to consider with things like that. And again, some storage areas, and then some of the imagery for that would be, what could solar, obviously we know what solar panels are, right? But, at a young age, educating the kids on what are the benefits of them, and, green infrastructure and things like that, as well as the green roof, and it cools the roof, and, it absorbs rainwater and things like that. So again, just all ideas to promote learning and support the curriculum, I think, is essentially what we're trying to achieve here. And again, progressing even more. So at the high school, the primary, the initial, I would say, money available is going to be utilized in the area that we're going to show you tonight. But however, there are thoughts for expanding out and beyond here. Okay, this again would be the jumping off point for larger things. So out here, outside of the cafeteria, would be a new access door out into an outdoor dining and patio with study areas and reading areas, opportunities for kids to collaborate and just sit and relax and either catch up on reading or an assignment, or at its most minimal, just have lunch, right? So this is the area where where we'd be located. We have allocated space for a potential future greenhouse, which would support the science curriculum there as well. So again, we're thinking long-term here, and how all of these built elements will function with one another and not impede one another at the same time. And I think that's the important part, is we don't want to build something that may prohibit future development and or expansion of something else. So this was the initial plan. Just different things, decorative railings, sunken reading areas, bistro-style tables, right? Trying to, we're progressing again. I keep using that word. The upper grades are progressing, and before you know it, they're going to be on college campuses. So this is, when you see the imagery, you'll see what we're going for here. This is just a more refined plan after we looked at that initial concept. I'll go back one, I think. We had a lot of hardscaping in there to start out with. Some of the initial feedback was it too much? There's too many tables. There's too much hardscaping, things like that. So we went back and we took another look at it. And we came back with this plan where we reduced the size, which would afford more expansion opportunities, limited the number of tables. I think we got about 40, accommodating about 40 students there. But then soften it up with interior trees and the synthetic turf sitting berm, and I'll show you what some of those concepts are, and then what that sunken reading area would be. And to the bottom left here would be an example of what the perimeter fence would be, and that would have landscaping obviously around it to soften it and just make it feel more welcoming. Some of the design elements here, again, you start to see now a more mature furnishing and more the reading circle elements, more concrete and or wood, plaza sail shades, things like that, stamped concrete. So what we're going for here is not essentially a campus feel, but the beginnings of that, and I think that's going to work real good there. And then bringing color, right? So with the furniture that I showed you here, it's very, very static. Everything's white and silver, it just doesn't have any life to it. But when I colorized it here with either school colors or, colors could be whatever they are. But now you can see how this space comes alive. This is that same plan view. However, when we run it through our Illustrator here, it gets its life now. You can see the sail shades and where the different benching arrangements would be in the dining areas and things like that. And then when we get into the space, you can really now start to see how this would come together with different dining opportunities and sitting areas. That area in the middle would be intended to sit on. The area to the left would be a sunken little reading area and a study area. Take an opportunity, no different than going to study hall during your lunch. You could be out here doing both at the same time. And again, just some vignettes of what the space may feel like from the inside. And again, from down below in that covered area where we would have shade over the top, and it's just a nice area where the kids can congregate and hang out. And that was the final image. So with that, well, hope you have questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is more toward the use of the space for the high school. So my original thought was that it could accommodate a flex seating for lunch. Now that we've made some changes to study hall periods, academic support periods, and with the COVID requirements for lunchtime, does this, I think it's beautifully rendered, but does this space accommodate an entire lunch period? How would it be shared? The usage for the elementary schools and the middle school is a little bit more clear for me, but I'm trying to wrap my head around the high school usage.
I can certainly add after that list. So during the middle of the school day, certainly this will be an opportunity for students to go outside and eat, which they don't currently have. Right now, high school students, most campuses do have something where they can go out and eat. Although it looks like there's 10 of those patio tables that seat 4, there is additional bench seating, and for lunch, students could sit around that ring. So we do envision that, somewhere around 60 to 70 students may be able to get out there during some lunch periods to eat.
Okay.
That would really be sort of managed at the high school, which students when are able to go outside and how that would be managed, whether they're inside or outside. So that's a few periods during the day, certainly for lunch. And then outside of that, as I noted earlier, as we went through the pandemic last year, it was not odd to see an English teacher outside reading Shakespeare with their students right outside my window at district office. So you can imagine that this provides an opportunity for a teacher to take their class outside for an assignment, whether it's in the depressed seating area or in one of the stations, bench stations, or using a set of those patios to bring your work, outside. And certainly the use of that space, on those periods that surround lunch, certainly have to be maybe a sign up or a schedule, but really working at the logistics of who can use it and sign up for it, and when would be certainly part of.
Thank you. Is it for that sign up, would it be a space for, say, 3 classes or 2 classes or 4 classes? How many would fit in that space?
I think our high school classes range from 15 students to 25. So one could imagine could be a class inside of the reading circle. There could be a class on one end and a class on the other. So probably get 2 classes or maybe even 3 and sometimes out there to get a break, get outside, get some air and take the learning and the work outside.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, good. Great.
I think the presentation was great. I think this really provides each of the buildings just another opportunity for outdoor learning, which obviously is the goal. My only concern is I know where the culture is more of instant gratification these days, and I understand what you said as far as come September, as far as the pavilion is going to be built, the slab, the shed, and essentially that's about it. And just my fear is that the cohesive plan moving forward, that we don't lose sight of some of these options, and over the years it's just like we piecemeal things, and then 5 years from now things are scattered, it doesn't make sense. So I don't know what the district's plan is on how to manage that, and either engaging the PTAs and PTOs to assist in either fundraising. Is it best for them to fundraise and then the district, with a donation, the district then builds it, or do they, with donations, assist in building it out? But I was just curious on if this is great and it gets us there, it gets us started, but what is the long-term plan on really completing each of the pavilions?
I think that really starts with getting larger audiences and groups involved. So I know upcoming curriculum meeting, there will be an early conversation about the process and the identification of identifying those learning stations that could be around it. We have a goal of developing some of those projects to include in the upcoming budget. Hopefully develop some cost out for what some of those are, and then certainly, as you noted, Mr. Lewis, one could imagine some of these are good opportunities for some great community organization support, whether it's something physical education or I love the music garden, booster clubs getting involved and looking to donate pieces. So I think once this is done, I think at our next meeting we'll have the secret resolutions. At the next meeting, I'm hoping, and then this will go up to the state. But the process to start to identify and budget for will start now. And what hopefully we'll have is an initial 1 to 3 station plan, a goal to get to 3, those outside satellite areas at the elementary levels, and then have a plan to make those happen as quick as possible.
I'm wondering if we could reach, I know we have a great amount of resources locally, whether it be the Brookhaven National Laboratory or the Tesla Science Center. I was wondering if some of those outside groups could be engaged. Maybe they would want to donate a station or assist in
Those are
building some of those out.
those are some great suggestions, and we'll certainly take those up.
Yeah, I agree. Even at a minimum, if they can help, provide the basis of what the fit out of those spaces could be, that would be,
Yeah,
they have the knowledge, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm
we're
fairly
conceptual
confident.
here. They have the,
I mean, from
the brains.
PCG, local, National Grid, I mean, we have a lot of probably great community partners that we can rely on.
Sure, for a solar at the middle school, we certainly can get some help. I think we have a goal of having some satellite stations. Depends, price them at what they are, but having something more than that some point next school year. So we can start that work and not just be the completed project won't just be the pavilions and the patios. It really will be that vision, but we really want the teachers' input, curriculum council input as to what that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that we're taking our time with it. I think that it should be strongly tied to the curriculum. And, some of these outdoor learning spaces really look beautiful, but the depth of learning that happens there, that it just ends up being an extension of the playground, which can be wonderful, but if we're really, truly looking to incorporate curriculum, I think we have to.
Yeah, again, I think it's important for, for the proper stakeholders, right, to be involved in. And that certainly the opportunity is there for them to bolster their curriculum. And I think that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. We know we're going outside. Let's take advantage of that time now.
Just to clarify real quick, the high school piece is going to be fully furnished and
Correct.
functional
Yes.
Day
Yes.
one. Okay. The other 3 will need
Correct.
additional.
The furnishing, some of the furnishings may not be, depending on what we select, obviously, we have a finite budget here. But the essential components of what you see in the high school will be up and running by the fall.
I think this is great. I know when I moved here close to 20 years ago, I had asked about the school district and said a little bit about the history, and some of the stories, anecdotes that I had heard was open campus, students could go out, have lunch or have classes. And, it's something that I always asked about. I thought we had a good opportunity to do that. And, I think this is just the next step. I know the district has gone through and, put up fencing around all the campuses. So from a security standpoint, I feel a lot better that we're going in this direction. So I think the timing's great. I think you guys, did a very good job with this. But to follow up on some of the other comments, the use of certain materials and, getting input from people is super important. I know, for instance, I can't remember which school, if it's Wading River, Miller Ave, this type of seating, really doesn't lend itself well to writing because you put a piece of paper on there and
Right.
you've got all that. So that kind of stuff,
Sure.
I think, as you said, getting the right stakeholders involved is super critical. And to follow up on something that Mike had mentioned, you've got a good vision here. I'm wondering if there's a way with working with the district to develop, I don't want to call it a phasing plan, but some kind of roadmap for, okay, we're going to start with the structural, move on to the next step. What would that be, the next step? Conceptually, I'm not looking for details on it. And then maybe 3rd or 4th steps.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you had, looked like you had something.
Henry, yeah, we agree with you. I mean, we're not putting a pavilion in a slab and walking away and say, hey, you guys figure out the rest. I think
Okay.
our participation with those individual building committees in their desires or selections of those various nodes, then yes, we would help place them and organize them. And, you know, is there synthetic turf? Is there poured in place materials? Talk and help through that design process with each of those groups, stakeholders, so that it does result in a cohesive design and not feel like it's little pieces just placed next to a building. So we understand that concept with you guys.
Thanks.
I have a few questions as follow-up. So in looking at these overviews, when you've done this, have you done this with other districts before, outdoor learning environments?
Not to this extent. We've done other outdoor environments at public libraries and things like that, which include similar design concepts, but creating these outdoor pavilions for a school,
No.
the first, right?
Yeah, so I think what's important is we've done numerous projects with components of everything we've shown you this evening, whereas you're going to be one of the first who are assembling all of those components in one unified thought. You know, we do a lot of public park work and a lot of, like Ken said, public libraries, and there's been hesitancy at public schools to embrace this type of project. You know, the high school cafeteria type outdoor, you know, that's a simple one, right?
Right, that's
But the
pretty
other
much-
ones are real, you know, a lot of thought goes into what we're trying to do there. And, you know, to the point, you know, the roadmap has to be there for it to be properly developed. Otherwise, you know, one wheel's going to come off of it, and then where are we at that point?
Yeah, I appreciate that. The reason I asked is I was curious if you had feedback from those past, you know, ventures, if you will, if there was any learnings from it that you've seen or, you know, could provide for us from these, you know, these overviews, if you will.
Yeah, again, like, you know, at various schools, we've done small versions of
Yep.
things
So,
for
yeah.
science curriculum and/or music, but not to the level of a full.
Got it. It didn't rise to the occasion of what we're trying to do here.
Right.
Can I have you back up to one of the pavilion buildings, please?
At which grade level?
Where you actually could see the infrastructure.
Sure.
So I think you had different sizes at the schools laid out. My question was, when I look at the roof line, right, the roof lines that you just have, and again, these are illustrations, right, they're not what we're doing yet.
Right.
The question is it really a closed-off roof, or is it open air in which rain would come in, for example?
Rain wouldn't come in because we would site it in such a way that we would, you know, site it so that, you know, we encourage the airflow in, but not rainwater. You certainly would have a big enough overhang over the cantilevered part where the driving rain couldn't get in there, but it's not to say, that's not where I'm concerned about the rain getting. It's gonna get in from the bottom and the sides if it's coming in hard and heavy, so, because there's no perimeter walls on these.
So I guess my thought was, even on rainy days, we take kids, we don't really take them outside, but maybe potentially using the outdoor learning space could still be a possibility. So they're not rain protected, basically, in the current design that you have.
I would say not rainstorm protected, however, light showers and things of that, they would be fine.
That might be something we should look at. Can I have you look at the sizing of the two buildings? So what did you do at Miller Avenue, if you could back up? I thought I saw 400 square feet, so it's basically a 20 by 20?
They're 800 square feet each.
How much?
800.
800, okay,
Yeah.
so 40 by 20, or depending on how you want to look
Yes,
at it.
some variation of that. I think we were at 25 by 35 or something to that effect.
So what was your thought process in terms of number of students, or how did you think about, you know, people underneath it, or did that come into the equation?
Two factors, trying to accommodate two small groups of children, as well as being able to build to what, you know, the initial funding is, right?
Okay,
So we had, you know, we're
but it's
trying,
basically, yeah, go ahead.
No,
It
no.
basically just represents a brick and mortar design.
essentially, it's square footage,
Because
right?
what do we have budgeted for each of these assignments? 250,000, I think it was?
It's about 258,000 for the elementary schools.
290.
Yeah,
Got it.
290 for the middle school and 485 for the high school.
Got it.
Total project costs.
So my only feedback would be that looked at that roof design, and the only thing I object to is that it wouldn't hold away rain. So whatever we put underneath it potentially would get wet. And I know you're trying to create an open air atmosphere, but it doesn't do us any good if everything you have underneath it gets wet. So I don't know how you'd store things or what you'd end up trying to do underneath it.
But I think they would look, some of these have storage sheds adjacent to the structures, which would be used for daily storage of materials.
No, I'm just, my only feedback. And then, in terms of warming, I know I saw you put up as an example, which again is just an illustration, an artist rendering, the solar panels or, you know, potentially a heat roof or something along those lines. So there was no look-see or putting heat underneath those roofs, anything along those lines?
No, the initial projects would be to provide electric to the areas and/or empty conduits and things like that, with the understanding that there would be continued dialogue and thought as to what that would be. We did specifically talk about heating lamps at one point, and we determined that, you know, we're dictating use, whereas we felt it was best to just get the utilities to them and then let the full use kind of blossom, if you will, what it's going to represent.
Yeah, I guess I'd ask the question back to you. When I think about, you know, our fall and spring here, it's pretty cold and windy. So again, I don't know how often these outdoor learning spaces will be utilized, but if you think about learning in the elementary level, kids are outside for recess for what, 20 minutes, Mr. Poole, something like that now? So I don't know what our expectations are for kids in temperature and climate and things along those lines, but something maybe we should think about is putting some kind of heat underneath them. Because if you have 40 children assembled, I don't know how long we expect them to stay out in a 40 or 50 degree day, or I don't know what the temperature was you look at of when these facilities can be used. That's how I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean? To maximize use, I guess, right? If you look at, obviously right now we'd be out of luck, you know, this month, you know, coming into December. So I'm just thinking about maximum use if we're going to use these facilities.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion regarding that, and some of the pros and cons, and
Yep.
I think in the end it was no, but again, the opportunity, you know, isn't being limited that it couldn't be added in the future if that's the preference.
Yeah, I think I'd like to, for the entire board, I'd like to see other, I know the facilities that we've been on walkthroughs, for example, at Miller Avenue, some of the concern raised by Mr. Curry around the warming kitchen and some other indoor facilities and use that we have of our monies right now versus the track plan here. So we're looking at $250,000 to build, I hate to say it, just an outdoor overhang. And then you're sharing that there's a 5 or 10 year plan or something. I don't know, I'm like Mike in terms of when do things actually get done? How do we think about, you know, extending the usefulness of this, you know, facility, if you will, or outdoor learning center versus indoor facilities and projects that we have in store. So, yep. Thank you.
I think part of this is tied to funding, right?
Yes.
Mr. Poole? So, you know, we're trying to use that funding as best as possible within the dictate of the funding.
This is definitely federal ESSER grant funded. As we shared back in June of last year, the overall plan for the use of the funds, I believe it was June 8th, the presentation's on the website, if anybody wants to see it. And there was programs like the mentoring program, additional math AS teachers. So it was the balance between closing instructional gaps with that federal funding and enhancing and offering more enriching opportunities for students. And some of that work happened over the summer. The larger projects are out of the federal grant as well, these pavilions, and those certainly were generated out of a look back at the number of classes and students that were going outside to enjoy outdoor learning, and then providing more, I guess I'll say, more protected, more supportive outdoor environments for learning to take place. You see a lot of students outside sitting on either a blanket they brought in from home or some pad outside. Overall, the project totals to provide these 4 outdoor learning spaces for each of the buildings is about I'll say somewhere around $1.2 million out of the federal grant funds. Certainly made a decision to provide a space in all of the buildings as opposed to just limited to the elementaries. So spending that money in the two elementaries would have provided all of the funding for all of the satellite areas, the heating, all of that could have been probably woven into that. But the decision can we impact all of the buildings, knowing that all of the buildings were taking students outside, and knowing as well that there are definitely going to be days of the year and even weeks of the year where maybe they're not being used, but balancing that against the value of the 6 or 7 months of the school year where they will provide enriching, engaging opportunities for students. Certainly outside. Certainly there was a list of uses for the federal funds, which I can share with the board along the way. However, really the question is, as we introduced this back in June, have been working on it across the last 6 months or so, truly the effort to have this ready for next fall. We do need to get the secret resolutions up there, and we do need to get the project up to state ed for a review if we hope to have this ready, some or all ready for next fall. Certainly, I'd recommend going forward with these projects based on feedback and volumes of students going outside, but certainly, should the board wish to explore something else, you certainly can. But again, I would recommend moving forward.
Sorry, Mr. Paul, I'm not really suggesting that. I'm just saying in general that if we're building these, we're committed to then potentially a plan in the future that has another X number of dollars associated with it. Don't know what those look like. We have other priorities. We don't know what those still look like. I don't know about these roofs. I don't know what else other board members, I know, Mike, you and Henry sit on the facilities committee. Were the roofs discussed, and how did people feel about an open roof plan?
I mean, it's not really an open roof. I mean, the sides are open. I think, like John mentioned, if you have driving rain, you probably won't be out there. But if it's poured out there in a storm, I would think that the teachers would not go out there if it's raining out. But as they're outside now, this just provides additional opportunities for the students. Again, I don't want to just focus on the pavilions, but what the pavilions will then provide us surrounding them. I think in all the schools. I'd like to think that we're continually on the edge of leading other schools and creative ideas to enhance our student opportunities.
I think from a K-5 perspective, you have kids come outside for writer's workshop. They have their notebooks and they're writing about small moments. Incredible to do outside. They're sitting in grass or they're sitting on a towel. This provides the structure for them to do that. There's also K-5 for science lessons that really should be done outside for life science. It's too hard to show fifth graders how erosion happens with sand. And I think there's a lot of opportunity that just the structure alone will provide students. So I do understand that, maybe you're thinking about looking forward and what that might look like and how long it takes, but I think the structure alone is going to be amazing.
Just to add, and you mentioned Space and Facilities, when this was presented to the Space and Facilities Committee, I think, Henry, you were present. I think overwhelmingly they were impressed and excited about potentially bringing these outdoor pavilions to our district.
Yeah, I think there were
Similar concerns.
Space and Facilities is a big
Similar
group,
concern, yeah.
so we get
So,
quite a few
yeah.
different, points of views of people, and it had very good approval rating at that point of what can we do going forward. And I'll just, for example, I'll use the greenhouse at the middle school, and I know you've brought this one up, but
Yep.
I remember Mr. Ram doing a presentation a couple of months ago, and the feedback that we got from him with the school, with the students, and the things that he can do in there, turned out being a very good decision to bring the greenhouse back. And to some level, I look at this as an opportunity for us to make it what it can be, right? Your concerns are well noted. I agree. That's why I was saying some kind of phasing plan or vision
Right.
beyond.
I just don't want to build a cement structure outside a building and then do nothing with it.
Right.
And I
agree.
don't want to see us, because everything takes a long time here, I don't want to see us 5 years from now having to look back and see a structure that needs maintenance and to be rebuilt because we didn't do anything with it. That's my point. You know, underneath it, I don't know what we had designed in terms of furniture and things like that. I think we should be realistic even right now for the next budget year to put that in, because if Mr. Poole, if these are being designed to be installed next fall, is that the objective? And I'd like to see them used, is I guess my point, if you know where I'm going.
Well, I would say that just having the concrete slab covered for multiple months in the fall and the spring, where you're not on the grass, and whether you're on one of the portable desks that we bought, or let's say the only thing that's out there in the fall is those pavilions. So we haven't done the nodes around it. So you just have the concrete slab and you have the pavilion outside. What a gift for learning. You're out of the sun, you're out of the elements, you're on concrete, you're not in the grass. Even if it's just, hey, we just did the math lessons review lesson. Let's take our workbooks and head outside. We're gonna finish up the math lesson outside on the pavilion to get a breath of fresh air. And I hate to say it, but heaven forbid that we're still in COVID-19. We've now created a much better learning environment for class to go outside and do real academic work, you know, for them. So I just think at a bare minimum, just having that outside pavilion is a great asset for the school district. Adding those nodes around the outside will greatly enhance it for it. But just as its core, bringing my class outside as a teacher to I've seen teachers bring students outside for writing, for reading, for science, for math practice. I've seen foreign language teachers at the high school bring their classes outside and honestly sit along the curb because they wanted to get their classes out just outside for nothing to do with a music garden or that, just to get the
get 'em
regular
outside, just change
instruction
the environment.
outside, to get some
Yep.
fresh air, to give students a break. There's a lot of research for social emotional you know, aspects of students for getting that break, you know, outside. And I'll be realistic. Do I expect students to go outside during a rainstorm or a snowstorm? Maybe in February, maybe nobody's getting out there. Even with
Yeah,
the
no,
heater,
that-
maybe
that
with the
wasn't-
heaters, you may not.
I wasn't
you may
trying
not
to
get
say
out
that
there. And probably
necessarily.
the nodes would have less use in the winter too as well. I love the music garden, by the way. I think that's that certainly could be woven into the curriculum at Miller Avenue with the music teachers' input as the bringing the classes outside to learn notes and scales on that. But to your point, we will strive to get some nodes in place into the budget for next school year so that we have it. We will work with the buildings, make sure that the furnace selection, the seating is correct and makes sense for the students.
Okay, good.
I think adding the sheds was really important. So there's a way to put that stuff away when it's not going to be used for a few weeks and then
Right.
take it out so it's safe. That was one of our meetings was, well, what about the seating? And we want to store it. We're always short on storage. So just to, I guess, to summarize what I said, I think the pavilions in and of themselves will be a great enhancement, provide great
Okay.
opportunity, and getting to those
Yeah,
next
look-
phases is really an exciting thing. I think we'll get a lot of buy-in from staff, from the curriculum council as to what those could be. I think our booster programs will be really supportive, PTAs, PTOs, and look forward to working with them to take it to that next.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
I
listen-
also think we can these will be utilized by our extracurricular clubs, probably. A lot.
Sure. I see PE going out there on a day where it may just be drizzling. There may be an opportunity to go outside and take PE outside on a day where they didn't before.
Well, that was my point on the rain thing, but I'm definitely not opposed to them. I just want to see the progression, and, you know, Henry, what you mentioned at the greenhouse at the middle school was exactly my point. I didn't want us to build something that's not going to be utilized, that's not going to be taken advantage of, for students and for their success. It's similar here. I just
Yeah.
want us to be thoughtful about where we are for, you know, the expectations for next fall, what we see happening. And then even if I could look at the high school picture again, my only thought there was, you're only accommodating, is it one class outside in the circle, the reading circle? I forgot what you called it. Yeah, I think it was called reading circle.
Yes, that'd be correct.
That's one classroom. Again, I don't know if people will be fighting for space here after seeing the ASC and the review tonight and the Mac lab. I'm sure there'll be people fighting for this space. I don't know if there's a possibility of entering and doing another circle on the other side to create two environments. I'm not sure if that even works.
There's no reason why we, again, to your point, having one of these, more of them up. Start somewhere.
No, I hear you. It's just a thought.
Within the budget we have, where it takes us.
You made a good point, because I know, I just made this comment Monday night at a at a Cub Scout meeting, and I was just saying, it's so loud in here, right, because all the Cub Scouts are in there. And just looking at where the exit is there, that'd be the perfect venue to just, break out into groups. So from an extracurricular activity, groups using them, I think that, that sold me. One last thing I'll say, though, I know architects typically, they have the layout, it's great. No, I'm not gonna say anything bad about architects. I'm an engineer, so I always go back to
There's no heating and cooling.
the operation piece of it. I can't get away from that. I just ask, I guess, the administration to make sure that we just talked about the custodial staff and what a great job they do. I just wanna make sure they're consulted in terms of how do we maintain this. I know that we have a lot of, square footage between all the campuses. So something like this, where we're no longer just manicuring lawns, we're actually have to work around these areas, what does this do to our staff and the ability for them to cover and maintain this? Do we need to, perhaps bring additional staff, custodial staff? That's the only part where I think about is how do we maintain this in good working order going forward?
I think that's a great point, Henry.
That's a really good point. I think in terms of even just the landscaping, if there's a way, I know this is just a rendering of the space, not getting into granular detail, but do we want to make it so that it's more maintenance-free around the perimeter of the fencing rather than having to pull a lawnmower in any of these spaces? And then the only other question I was going to have was in terms of trying to, make sure that we scale this in the most economical way possible. Is there, for the future greenhouse at the high school, is that built on a cement slab also, or is that a different foundation?
It has a concrete perimeter foundation.
Okay.
The one at the middle school has a gravel, I don't want to call it a floor, but a gravel surface.
Okay.
If getting watering things and things like that you don't have these standing puddles inside of a greenhouse.
So I would it wouldn't be exciting to have an unfinished look to this, but at the same time, if we have a cement contractor coming in and doing the stamped concrete, should we consider in the phasing, should we consider putting that greenhouse, like making it greenhouse ready, and anything that might not be, I think we need like kind of a twofold approach in my opinion. I could be missing something, but the ability we have generous community, we have great support by our parent organizations. If there's an ability to look at small scale projects with price tags, but also larger scale, what can we look at the budget for? And even if we can't do it right away, utilize the contractors that are in there to plan for the phasing.
It makes sense in regards to economy of scale, but as far as SED is concerned and permits and structures,
Okay.
it's kind of a separate
It
project.
has to remain separate, okay.
Yeah.
What about each of those nodes? So do they have to remain separate for SED, or is that not even SED?
At that point, you're not
Getting anything back
you're
from it,
not
okay.
doing any SED submission for that type of expansion.
Okay, thank you for
Yep.
clarifying that.
I had one final question. So this is federal grant money, so there's no aid associated with this, right?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be like double dipping.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
just figured I'd ask, you
Yep.
never know.
Well, thank you so much. These are really exciting projects, and when you came here a while back to present to us some of the flexible options and some of the more exciting, not just infrastructure-related projects, this is what we were dreaming of getting to. So, it's exciting to launch into this, and, really looking forward to getting started.
We appreciate that. I know it's good to see the Mac Lab and the
It looks
academic
beautiful.
centers also. So, all of that came together pretty quickly, and it looks great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, the last presentation we have is from Mr. Meinster on the minor adjustments to the instructional day schedule.
Good evening, everybody. I promise to keep this very brief, but as Mr. Poole mentioned earlier on during his superintendent's report, as part of the recent contract that has been put in place, we have a change to the instructional day for our secondary buildings, and those additional minutes, 5 minutes additional at the high school and 10 minutes additional at the middle school, are going to impact the program that we have for the rest of this year. And so I just want to go through the proposed plan for how we will incorporate that additional time into our day and the impacts that will have. So what is changing? Effective January 3rd of 2022, once we return from the winter break, the middle school and high school day will be extended. Additional time will be used to extend our instructional periods for students in both buildings. So in each of the buildings, we would be looking to add 1 minute to each of the periods within the day. Both buildings would still continue to start at their current time, so the morning would be unimpacted by these changes, but dismissal would be extended by each of those times. So the dismissal time at the middle school would move from 1:55 to 2:05, and the high school dismissal will move from 2:05 to 2:10 in the afternoon. This is what the revised schedule will look like for both buildings. The middle school, again, starting with 7:15, 7:55, the AM period, with first period continuing to begin at 8 o'clock in the morning. And again, each of the instructional periods moving from their current 39 minutes to 40-minute periods. With the 10 additional minutes at the middle school, that would also include, so that's 8 additional minutes for the 8 periods. Of those 10 minutes, the remaining 2 minutes would be an extension of our current advisory. At the high school, again, first period still continues to start at 7:20 a.m. The periods at the high school will go from their current 40-minute length to 41 minutes for the remainder of the year. Home base would actually be reduced by 4 minutes in order to be able to get from because the high school only has an additional 5 minutes added to their current day. So that would be 5 minutes worth of each of the periods, and the remaining 4 periods would get their minutes from the reduction of home base. And again, the days end at 2:05 and 2:10. There will be an impact based on busing and transportation that would be a consequence of the changes at the secondary level. With the extension of both of those, the way that our transportation routes work is that our buses come at the dismissal time of the secondary buildings, pick up the students, complete their routes, and then go back to one of the 2 elementary buildings to complete a route for the elementary. So as a result of the extension of the middle school and high school day by even this small amount of time may have an impact. We have looked into that, and it's our recommendation that in order to be able to provide sufficient time for the buses to complete the revised secondary schedule afternoon runs, that we would shift the elementary school day. The elementary day does not change in its length. It is still the exact same amount of time, so we would be looking to shift the elementary school day by 5 minutes to accommodate that change at the secondary level, such that the elementary day would begin at 8:55 instead of 8:50, and would end at 2:55 instead of 2:50. Again, no net change to the day, just a shift of 5 minutes. Bus pickup and drop-off times would be shifted by 5 minutes later than their current times at both Miller Avenue and Wading River, as a result of the fact that we'd be shifting the start and end times of the day by 5 minutes, so the bus routes would also shift by the same amount of time. And that basically covers what the plan is looking to be, again, taking effect upon our return from the December break on January 3rd. Questions?
So when would you be notifying parents, updates?
If the board is okay, tomorrow.
Okay, got it. I was
Yeah.
just wondering. Yeah, no, I didn't know if it was.
As soon as possible to
Good,
let
that's
them
even
know.
better. So is it
Looking to
something
come
we
here
can have
first and then get going
Sure.
as quickly as possible.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, this week, very, very quickly. Even though it really doesn't seem consequential, it's definitely a difference. Probably if I'm an elementary parent, I'm sending my kid to the bus stop at the same
Yeah.
time anyway, as the bus schedule sort of
Correct.
shifts
Right.
itself out a little bit. But,
Just want people to be aware, pretty more or
yeah,
less, that
yeah.
you're talking
Absolutely.
about your child may come home 5 minutes
But
later.
it's good to take advantage of it. I know normally you would make this you would start the year with that, but
Sure,
the
sure.
opportunity is
Of course.
presenting itself, and really, truly, every minute counts. So
Mhm.
having some more time and instruction, certainly where we are now in life is a
Yeah, I agree.
Are there any changes to extra help or morning music at Wading River or Miller Avenue? Those will be the same time?
Everything would
Or
shift by the 5
everything would
minutes.
shift, okay.
But other than that, yeah, everything would be exactly the same. The AM period, again, everything would shift by exactly 5 minutes.
No other questions.
So if everybody's okay, we will,
Yep.
we'll move forward, and we'll get the communication out to families, and parents as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Shouldn't take too long to get that out, and have time to answer questions, work with the bus company a little bit
Yeah, I think that's great.
forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have votes and resolutions. We're going to have Mr. Hayward read us the memo for the first read policies 1,000 through the 1222.
Great, thank you. The policies for the first reading have been reviewed collectively during the October 14th, 27th, and November 18th Policy Committee meetings. These are the recommended policies for adoption. 1,000 Community Relations Goal. This policy would replace our current policy, 3110, Community Relations. It is a local policy and gives an understanding of what community relations are and includes verbiage from our district policy to highlight procedures and specific efforts that are made by the board to invite open dialogue within the community. The next one, 1050, Annual District Election and Budget Vote. This policy would replace our current policy, Policy 1611, Business and the Annual District Meeting, and 1650, Submission of Questions and Propositions at the Annual Meeting and Election and Special District Meetings. It is a required policy and was reviewed and revised by the district's legal counsel to reflect the need of the district while maintaining current practices. 1120, School District Records. This policy will replace our current policies 3310, Public Access to Records, 6190, Employee Personal Identifying Information, 6420, Employee Personal Records and Release Information, and 7240, Student Records Access and Challenge. It is a required policy that includes information on how to obtain school district records and procedures in the event that the school district is served with legal papers. Corresponding with that, we have the exhibit and the regulations, which would be outline the process that one would go through. The next one, 1130, Media Relations. This policy would replace our current policy 3111, School-Sponsored Media. It is a local policy and suggests to establish the superintendent of schools as a spokesperson for the district and the board president as a spokesperson for the Board of Education. It also includes a list of goals for the board to establish for community involvement. The next one, 1145, dissemination of information, materials, and student goods and services through the schools. This policy will replace our current policy, 3112, communications from outside the schools, and 3240, student participation. Is the local policies and suggests guidelines to impose limits on the dissemination of materials and information by a variety of external organizations. It was recommended to include specification of which materials would be considered from our current policy. And finally, 1222, relationship with booster organizations. This policy would replace our current policy, 3260, relationship with booster organizations. This is a local policy which is consistent with our current policy. However, it was suggested to include the logo as well as the school name for any time a booster organization is using it in suggestion that the district has endorsed, sponsored, or approved the club activities.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to accept the policies for the first reading? Okay, Jim, second Tom. Any discussion or questions? Okay, to vote. All in favor? 0. Okay. Can I get a motion to accept the policies for the second reading? Jim, second Tom. Any discussion or questions on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We are adopting 6 policies here. Okay to vote? All in favor? 7-0. Need to get a motion for approval of the October 12th public session meetings. Tom, second. Rob, any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. October 26th public session meetings. Can I get a motion? Jim, second Henry. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Approval of the CPSE, CSE, and 504 meeting summary from November 18th. Get a motion? Tom, second Megan. Any discussion or questions? Okay to vote? All in favor? 7-0. We have one Board of Education resolution. It's the approval of community programs, adult yoga and kids yoga. Can I get a motion? Tom, second. Rob, any discussion or questions? Okay to vote? All in favor? 7-0. There are 6 curriculum and instruction resolutions. Is it okay to take them as a block? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve 21-22-105 through 21-22-110? Tom, second. Rob, any discussion or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 7-0. There are 6 business and operations.
Katie,
Yes?
quick. Megan just raised, we vote on the treasurer's report? I don't know, I think we
September
skipped
21,
that.
did we do that?
Say that one more time.
You missed it.
Treasurer's report? I
Oh,
think
we
we skipped
skipped.
over
Oh,
that.
did I? Sorry about that.
I don't, maybe Brian can confirm.
Why I don't see it on here. I don't have it.
Didn't make
No,
the
no, okay. All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Tom, second. Mike, any discussion or questions? All in favor? Okay, 7-0. Thank you. Okay, so, let me see, back to we did curriculum, business and operations. Is it okay to take these as a block? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve 21-22, 111 through 116? Tom, second Megan. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Can I get a motion to approve the personnel agenda? Tom, second Henry. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Okay. Any additional comments from residents? I don't think we have any residents here. No. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into second executive session for legal issues? Megan, second Mike. Any, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, thank you.